They were never meant to speak. For years, Catherine's private staff remained silent under the weight of royal secrecy until now. In a dramatic turn no one saw coming, whispers from deep inside Kensington Palace are erupting into thunder. What they reveal not only shatters the illusion of unity, but also throws Queen Camilla's integrity into question. This isn't gossip, it's betrayal. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. It began with one anonymous message, short and cryptic, delivered to a major British tabloid. A simple statement: the truth about what Queen Camilla did to Catherine is buried at Kensington. Journalists initially dismissed it as nothing more than palace drama, until more messages followed. Each one more detailed, each one implicating not just individuals, but systems within the royal household. As editors began cross-referencing the claims with known palace insiders, they stumbled onto something no one had anticipated: multiple current and former staffers, all independently reaching out to tell their side of the same disturbing story. There was no question, someone from inside was talking, and they weren't alone. A trusted senior member of Catherine's staff, still in active service at the time, confirmed that quiet orders had come from Queen Camilla's private office over a year ago. These weren't typical hierarchical commands, they were veiled directives wrapped in formality. Requests to delay updates to the royal archive, postpone digital releases, and in some cases, withhold media access to certain royal gifts and family correspondence. But it wasn't the vagueness that struck staff as suspicious, it was the consistency. Everything Camilla wanted delayed or buried had one thing in common: it involved Catherine. Over the months that followed, friction behind the scenes began to escalate. Rumours of frostiness between the two royal households became common knowledge among staff. One aide described the atmosphere as controlled tension, while another called it a silent war where everyone knew the rules but no one said them out loud. Catherine's team was kept on edge, watched, and often overridden. Staff members quietly documented every instance where they were asked to interfere with Catherine's legacy, be it postponing events, altering records, or refusing to acknowledge donations on her behalf. Then came the lockdown. 2 days before the leak became public, all access to the royal server used by senior household staff was revoked without warning. Mobile devices were seized under the guise of a security breach. Schedules were cleared. One insider claimed Camilla personally visited an internal HR office, demanding a list of all staffers in Catherine's wing who had access to the archives. That same day, at least 3 senior aides were placed on immediate administrative leave, no explanation given. The silence was chilling. What the public didn't know was that a confidential HR investigation had actually been launched months prior. Several staffers had raised quiet concerns about unethical orders they had been given, but were reportedly warned to tread carefully. That investigation was buried without a trace until now. But as the whispers turned to roars, the truth could no longer be contained, and one staff member dared to go public. She was loyal. She was silent. Until loyalty turned into a prison. Now, one of Catherine's most trusted aides has stepped forward, risking everything to reveal what she says Camilla demanded they bury. Her voice shakes, her eyes burn, and her truth may cost her everything, but she won't back down. Dubbed the Whisperer by the media, her identity remains concealed for now, but her presence is unmistakable. Her voice, though digitally masked, carries the weight of 10 years in service to Catherine. She was there during the rise, during the silence, and during the storm that no one outside the palace walls ever saw coming. And now, with the nation gripped by what she's revealed, her confession has become the crack that split the crown's carefully constructed facade. Her account begins not with an accusation, but with an apology. "I should have spoken sooner," she says, holding back tears. "But we were told it would destroy everything if we did." She recounts with startling clarity the moment she first received an instruction that didn't feel right. It came not directly from Camilla, but through a senior intermediary, a typed memo with Camilla's crest, marked confidential. The directive? A subtle alteration of public records tied to one of Catherine's major charitable milestones. It seemed harmless at first: a delay, a footnote moved, a title omitted. But then it became a pattern. contributions erased, patronages quietly reassigned, moments that defined Catherine's growing influence as a future Queen consort were slowly stripped from history, until all that remained was a hollow, manufactured timeline, designed to dull her shine. The aide's emotional breakdown during the interview reveals the toll this deception took. She speaks of nights where she cried in silence, watching the woman she admired be systematically diminished from within. Catherine never asked for power, she earned it, and they couldn't stand that. The breaking point came during a heated internal discussion over the royal archives. Camilla, reportedly frustrated by Catherine's popularity during a recent Commonwealth tour, allegedly snapped, "Erase her. She's not queen yet." And she may never be. Those words were never meant to be repeated, but they became the moment everything changed. Haunted by what she heard, the aide began documenting every alteration, every hidden memo, every moment of deliberate erasure. Her private journal, now handed to investigative journalists, maps out the timeline of deception in detail. And when the media caught wind of her story, the response was immediate and explosive. News outlets across the Commonwealth began digging, cross-referencing past omissions, and finding the fingerprints of a hidden campaign against Catherine. Public anger surged. Online support flooded in for the whisperer, hailing her not as a traitor to the crown but a protector of truth. And just when the palace thought it could silence one, more voices began to rise, turning a leak into a tidal wave. Buried in a drawer, folded in envelopes marked personal eyes only, lay the smoking guns no one expected to see. Handwritten notes, traced back to Camilla, revealed the precise directives: hide, erase, suppress. But the most shocking part? The content she targeted had nothing to do with her, and everything to do with Catherine's future. The revelations came not from a dramatic confrontation, but from a quiet audit triggered by mounting allegations. When two senior assistants from the Royal Communications Office conducted an overdue reconciliation of archived correspondence, they stumbled upon something chilling: sealed envelopes, addressed to private secretaries, tucked deep within a filing cabinet that hadn't been touched in over a year. Inside were several handwritten notes, bearing Camilla's distinct script, each signed off with her initials and time-stamped with precise urgency. These weren't ceremonial letters or personal remarks, they were instructions. Directives cloaked in formal language, but pointed with unmistakable purpose. The first note carried an order to delay the official upload of photographic records from the November Gala, a high-profile event where Catherine had personally led a global health initiative. A second one referenced a pause in media amplification regarding a children's hospice campaign closely tied to Catherine's work. But it was the third letter that sent shockwaves through the palace. It referred specifically to a planned unveiling of a commemorative royal portrait featuring Catherine alongside Queen Elizabeth. Camilla's instruction? Shelve it indefinitely. It sets the wrong tone. The message was short, but the motive behind it was clear. Erasure through omission. Forensic experts were discreetly brought in to authenticate the documents, and their findings were damning. The handwriting, ink patterns, and signature styles were verified to match other known correspondences from Camilla. The internal breach these notes represented was staggering. Royal protocol demands that all directives pass through formal, traceable channels. Yet here were memos bypassing the chain of command, issued through backdoor channels, targeting only one individual's visibility: Catherine. One longtime palace aide described it bluntly. It was sabotage, covert, quiet, but intentional. The implications didn't stop with handwritten memos. When the archivist overseeing royal documentation was consulted, she confirmed something far more alarming: several files connected to Catherine's international tours, military patronages, and joint diplomatic visits were no longer listed in the live records. Her response was cautious but telling: "What we're seeing is deliberate pruning. Someone wanted history rewritten." These were not isolated moments. They painted a broader, coordinated effort to suppress a rising force within the monarchy, one whose popularity, elegance, and growing influence threatened the fragile balance Camilla was struggling to maintain. The staff who uncovered the letters were reportedly instructed to remain silent, but with the press now circling and public trust wavering, Silence was no longer an option. What began as a quiet administrative task had now blown the doors wide open on a plot too precise to be coincidence. But documents weren't the only thing erased. Turns out Catherine's public image was also under covert attack. Subtle headlines, whispered stories, unnamed sources. For years, the media hinted at cracks in Catherine's reputation. Now, former staff are confirming it was no accident. It was strategy. Leaks, distortions, carefully placed rumors. All roads lead back to an unexpected origin. Camilla's own circle. What appeared to be random tabloid noise, petty criticisms, and passing jabs was in reality a carefully orchestrated whisper campaign. Multiple aides, now stepping forward under the protection of anonymity, have revealed that they were either pressured or indirectly involved in a pattern of targeted media manipulation. One of the most damning revelations came from a former palace press officer who confessed to nudging journalists with negative talking points about Catherine during key public events. The timing was no coincidence. The leaks always followed a high moment in Catherine's public role, designed to chip away at her growing popularity. One week, it was her so-called reluctance to engage with press. Another, her strained relationship with senior royals, all speculative, but printed with enough ambiguity to plant doubt. And while the stories seemed like harmless gossip to the public, behind the scenes, they were weaponized. A confidential ledger provided by a whistleblower exposed a trail of discreet payments made to third-party media consultants, individuals with past professional ties to Camilla's longtime press strategist. One entry even referenced a visibility correction, coinciding with a smear article accusing Catherine of being emotionally distant from staff. That article, ironically, was published just days after the princess had personally visited a children's cancer ward in secret, a visit deliberately kept out of the press by Camilla's team, according to two sources. Then came the email chain. An explosive set of internal communications obtained by an independent journalist showed a senior aide reviewing and approving language for a yet-to-be-published piece. One phrase was underlined: "Catherine has always seemed aloof to outsiders." The aide's comment? "Keep this in. It sells." It was no longer rumor. It was proof that someone at the top had weaponized perception. Catherine's grace, once her greatest strength, had become a target in the court of public opinion. Even more unsettling was the quiet surveillance. Catherine's internal communications were allegedly monitored, emails flagged, schedules reviewed, messages intercepted under the guise of maintaining palace security. But those close to her now alleged that the real purpose was to control what reached the outside world and what didn't. A former staffer recalled an instance when a thank you letter Catherine wrote to a grieving mother mysteriously disappeared from the outgoing pile. It was never sent. No explanation given. Former tabloid editors, now free from NDAs and royal influence, have begun speaking out. One editor revealed he was frequently nudged by intermediaries to publish soft hits against Catherine, nothing libelous, he said, just enough to change the mood. The goal wasn't to destroy her. It was to dull her shine, to ensure that she was never seen as the obvious successor to the throne's emotional legacy. But what was the reason behind the erasure, the sabotage, the suppression? The answer may lie in a royal rivalry far more personal than anyone imagined. Behind the curtsies and polished smiles lies a rivalry forged in resentment, jealousy, and unspoken fear. Camilla may have worn the crown, but Catherine had the people's heart. As insiders reveal, this was never just about power. It was about legacy, attention, and the terrifying prospect that one woman's rise meant another's erasure. It began quietly, a shift in presence, in tone, in how each woman was positioned within the monarchy. Camilla, once the outsider who weathered scandal and emerged as queen consort, was now grappling with a new kind of threat, not from scandal, but from admiration. Catherine's rise was graceful, unforced, and unrelenting. Every public appearance sparked global praise, every charitable move made headlines, and every step she took reminded the world that the monarchy had a future and it looked like her. That unspoken reality, according to palace insiders, began to corrode the fragile balance of power between the two women. Sources close to the palace now claim that Camilla, behind closed doors, voiced growing unease about Catherine's increasing popularity. She reportedly referred to her as the Golden One, but not with admiration, with dread. Several of Camilla's trusted allies, especially those embedded in strategic planning and diplomatic coordination, allegedly urged her to limit Catherine's exposure. The justification? That too much visibility for Catherine could shift perception away from the current queen and threaten the legitimacy of her reign. It was subtle at first. Catherine's speaking roles were trimmed, her international presence minimized, invitations to high-level diplomatic receptions came late or not at all. But the manipulation wasn't just public. According to internal council minutes from a closed royal strategy meeting in mid-2023, Charles was quietly warned by a senior advisor of a perception imbalance between the Queen and the Princess of Wales. The document, now leaked, suggests concern that Catherine's popularity was eclipsing Camilla's in both media and global political circles. Instead of leveling the playing field with grace, palace actions shifted towards suppression. Staff from Catherine's wing found themselves excluded from state planning meetings they'd attended for years. Aides reported that they were instructed not to initiate projects that involved joint public appearances unless specifically authorized. That authorization rarely came. The most glaring example? A highly anticipated joint visit to a women's leadership conference in 2023, one that was scheduled, planned and prepared for. Just days before, it was called off. Catherine was told the itinerary had changed. Camilla attended alone. The message was clear, only one queen in the spotlight. But while the public never saw the conflict, staff behind palace doors witnessed the unraveling. One longtime assistant recalled watching Catherine sit quietly at her desk, scanning the event photos she was barred from attending. She smiled through it, the aide said, but we saw her break. Catherine never retaliated. She never leaked, never lashed out. But the silence was its own battle. Her restraint, her composure, only amplified the cruelty of what was happening around her. And as Camilla tightened her grip on legacy, it became clear she wasn't just trying to rule, she was trying to erase. And then, in a moment that would change everything, one forgotten royal asset resurfaced and exposed what Camilla had truly tried to bury, a dusty storage chambre. A sealed file. And within it, the proof of a campaign to erase history. Hidden for years under lock and key, Catherine's private staff uncovered a room filled with photos, awards and letters meant for public archives, all quietly removed. What they found would ignite a palace-wide reckoning. It was supposed to be a simple task, an end-of-year inventory. But deep beneath the eastern wing of Kensington Palace, a junior archivist unlocked a door long overlooked. The room, unremarkable at first glance, housed boxes marked to be processed, except many of them bore seals that should have guaranteed immediate archival priority. Catherine's team, puzzled, began to sift through the dust-covered contents. What they uncovered was not just a bureaucratic oversight. It was a deliberate vanishing act. Folder after folder contained documentation of Catherine's most defining moments, visits to wounded veterans, international summits where she stood shoulder to shoulder with global leaders, and heartfelt moments with families affected by tragedy. All removed, all hidden, and none of it logged in the official royal archive. The shock deepened when a box labelled QEII, personal correspondence, was opened. Inside were handwritten letters from Queen Elizabeth herself, addressed to Catherine, praising her grace, her strength, her role as the example this family needs. These were not casual notes. They were royal affirmations, sealed, protected and meant to be preserved. Yet somehow they had been locked away, never recorded in the system. Forensic review of digital metadata revealed something more damning. Many of these removals were time-stamped within days of Camilla's ascensio. N to Queen Consort, not weeks, days. A clear pattern emerged. Material elevating Catherine had been quietly extracted from the narrative. There was no press release, no formal directive, no traceable command. But as the palace team pieced together the origin of the removals, it became increasingly evident that this wasn't an error, it was an operation. One designed to control how history would remember Catherine's contributions or forget them entirely, and it was sophisticated. Items weren't destroyed, they were simply hidden, giving plausible deniability to anyone asked. But the truth was now out. Among the lost items were photographs, never-before-seen images of Catherine in private meetings with wounded soldiers, hugging mothers at hospices, engaging in behind-the-scenes diplomacy that helped repair fractured alliances. None of this had ever reached the public eye. The reaction among royal historians was swift and furious. One called it a violation of historical integrity. Another, more bluntly, labelled it a clear act of legacy manipulation. News of the discovery leaked within 48 hours, sparking a media firestorm and triggering a furious internal audit. For Catherine, this was not just personal, it was her public identity, her decade-long contribution. Her place in the royal lineage, deliberately erased and nearly lost. But thanks to the persistence of her loyal team, the truth was back in the light. The reckoning had begun, and the walls that once protected this conspiracy were now cracking. But the final blow wouldn't come from inside the palace walls. It would come from a royal who saw everything and stayed silent. Until now, for decades, Princess. Anne followed the unspoken code, never interfere, never expose. But this time, she couldn't remain silent. In a quiet yet thunderous move, she confirmed what many feared and sided, unmistakably, with Catherine. The impact? Immediate. The palace was shaken to its foundation. It began with a closed-door summons. Princess Anne, known for her discipline and discretion, requested an urgent audience with King Charles. No aides, no courtiers, no press briefings. What transpired behind those doors remains classified, but multiple sources confirmed the intensity. Anne, deeply disturbed by what had surfaced, laid bare the truth to her brother. That royal history had been manipulated, that Catherine's legacy had been tampered with, and that the deception had originated far closer to the throne than anyone had dared admit aloud. The monarch who had once leaned heavily on Anne for counsel was now being asked firmly, unflinchingly, to confront what had been done in his name. Hours after that meeting, an internal memo leaked from the palace, addressed to a select group of senior staff. The message, attributed to Princess Anne, read, "What's right is right and what's hidden must come to light." The tone was not aggressive. It was resolute. The weight behind those words signaled something no royal watcher could ignore. The Princess Royal was taking a stand. And not just in private. She reportedly met with the Royal Archives director the very next morning, personally requesting, and some say demanding, a comprehensive review of every item flagged or withheld since Camilla's coronation. That audit began within 48 hours, but perhaps the boldest move came when Anne confronted Camille. A face-to-face. According to insiders, the exchange was brief but unforgettable. Anne, unwavering, stated simply, "You've gone too far." For a woman who had spent a lifetime avoiding palace theatrics, that sentence landed like a cannon blast. Camilla did not respond, at least not in that moment. But the message had been delivered, and it was clear the dynamics within the royal household had changed. Days later, Anne made an unannounced public appearance alongside Catherine at a rural charity event in Yorkshire. No press release had gone out, no palace correspondent had been tipped. Yet, there they stood, shoulder to shoulder, smiling, poised, united. For the thousands watching live and the millions who saw the images later, the meaning was unmistakable. This was more than solidarity, it was a message. Anne had chosen a side. And not just any side, the one that had been undermined, erased, silenced. Now the palace was no longer a fortress of secrecy. It had become a battlefield of truth. The ripple effect of Anne's involvement spread rapidly. Former aides who had been hesitant to speak began to reconsider. Journalists who had once been shut out of the narrative suddenly had allies willing to confirm what they'd only guessed at. And with Anne's credibility lending weight to every word, the tide of public opinion began to shift with breathtaking speed. The monarchy had always endured scandal, but this was a moral reckoning, and it was far from over. But it wasn't just Anne, because next came something no one could have predicted, the crown's official reckoning. When a king's family implodes behind the scenes, silence is no longer an option. After weeks of escalating revelations, King Charles was forced to take sides, and the decision broke the monarchy's facade of unity. Camilla stood accused. Catherine stood vindicated. And Charles? Torn between duty and devastation. It began at Balmoral. An unscheduled summit was called. Senior royals summoned. No press, no announcements. Only whispers of a crisis too big to contain. Inside those stone walls, the weight of the revelations landed like thunder. A confidential dossier compiled by independent archivists, Catherine's legal counsel, and whistleblowers was presented to the king. It detailed names, timelines, original documents, and digital trails. The evidence was damning. What was once dismissed as rumor now sat before him in black and white. Every suppressed letter, every redirected press inquiry, every sealed photo of Catherine that had mysteriously vanished from the public domain. And the name that surfaced over and over? Camilla. Sources close to the family revealed that the confrontation between Charles and Camilla was emotional and deeply personal. For years he had protected her, elevated her, fought to integrate her into the highest circle of royal life. But now, faced with proof that she may have conspired to erase the standing and history of his own daughter-in-law, his composure reportedly shattered. One staffer described the moment as a collapse of illusion. Charles, always diplomatic, was said to have asked only one question: why? The answer never came. What did come, however, was a quiet but monumental meeting between Charles and Catherine. No cameras, no ceremony, just two individuals, one bearing the crown, the other bearing the weight of betrayal. Insiders claim Charles offered a private apology, assuring Catherine that the truth would be corrected and her legacy preserved. But for Catherine, it wasn't about vindication, it was about justice. And for the first time in years, she left that room not in silence, but with assurance that the palace would no longer stand on shifting sand. Soon after, the palace released a rare, formal statement. Its tone was firm. All historical records pertaining to official royal engagements will be restored and safeguarded without exception. It was a simple line, but behind it was an admission that something had gone terribly wrong. The silence had broken, and the kingdom was listening. Camilla's absence from 3 high-profile events in the weeks that followed did not go unnoticed. While no official explanation was given, speculation swirled. Her retreat from the spotlight felt less like a scheduling conflict and more like a reckoning in progress. The Queen Consort, once at the center of royal transformation, was now at the heart of royal scandal. But the story didn't end there, because Catherine's staff had one last card to play, and it would reshape the public's perception forever. She never needed to raise her voice. Her silence, grace, and quiet resilience had always spoken louder than any scandal. And now, with truth on her side and the shadows dissolving, Catherine stood tall. Not as a victim, but as the rightful future queen who endured, survived, and rose above it all. The storm had passed, but the kingdom had changed. What had begun as hushed rumors and anonymous leaks had become a defining chapter in royal history. And at the center of it all was a woman who never sought revenge, only truth. As the revelations unfolded, the public's perception of Catherine shifted from admiration to reverence. Her dignity throughout the ordeal struck a chord that no orchestrated campaign could mute. Polls surged. Commentators, once hesitant, now openly declared her the moral center of the monarchy. The people had chosen their queen not by bloodline, but by belief. Within the palace, those who had once been pushed into the shadows were quietly restored. Catherine's staff, the loyal few who had risked everything to bring the truth to light, were reinstated, honored privately by the princess herself, and later publicly by the crown. What had been hidden was now being celebrated. The royal archives reopened their records, this time with a mandate for transparency. Photos once removed returned to their rightful place. Letters, awards, and speeches reappeared, not as corrections, but as rightful pieces of Catherine's legacy. Major newspapers that had once parroted planted narratives issued retractions. Editorials ran headline after headline, acknowledging the manipulation they had unknowingly participated in. One front page simply read, "We got her wrong." And then came the moment no one expected, a surprise tribute aired by the BBC. It was subtle, respectful, but powerful. A segment dedicated to Catherine's humanitarian work over the last 15 years. No palace approval, no political motive, just truth. The broadcast ended with her visiting a child cancer ward, where a small girl whispered, "You're the kind one." Catherine later issued a statement, short, graceful, and piercing. "Truth," she said, "has its own crown." That sentence echoed through the halls of power. It wasn't just a response to what had happened, it was a promise that no matter who tried to bury her, she would never be defined by those shadows. She had endured not just scrutiny, but sabotage. And she emerged, not vindictive, but victorious. And though this chapter has closed, the whispers of power, loyalty, and betrayal will echo in royal halls for generations to come. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.